All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's happening? We are back with episode 6, and I have none other than Mrs. Cannabis influencer herself, Mrs. Brooke Bergstahler out of Los Angeles, California. How are you?
Aloha.
Aloha. You brought some good weather with you. It's been kind of dreary here.
Oh, wow. Really? Has it?
A few days ago, it was kind of rainy, kind of ugly looking, but we're back.
Yeah, that feels like maybe that happens like once a year in Las Vegas.
Once every, I would say like 3 months maybe.
I already feel like a lizard. I've spent less than 48 hours in Las Vegas. Someone yesterday told me, she said, honey, your legs are very ashy and you're too cute for ashy legs. And she made me put lotion on.
Really?
I was actually quite grateful, but
Yeah.
I've never been called out for like, you have visibly dry skin, girl.
You know, it makes me wonder, have you not been ashy before visibly, or did someone just not be like, hey, that's my girl, hey, psst, put some lotion.
No one's told me. I mean,
Really?
I have, okay, this is like a weird aside, but
Right.
I have,
No, it's all good.
I have an
It's all
aversion
good.
to lotion.
Really?
I mean, like CBD balm. Oh yeah, lather me up in THC. We love it for
Right,
pain
but
and all these
regular
things. Lotion. Once I had a doctor tell me I have eczema, and she said butter up like a cornball, and it scarred me, and I can't forget the memory. And
Got it.
I don't like lotion for that reason.
Wow.
Yeah, we're learning a lot about me very
Butter
fast.
up like a cornball.
Isn't that disturbing?
No, but it's kind of good though.
You like cornballs? I don't like cornballs. Whatever they are, I don't want one.
No. I like cheese balls though, like the Cheetos. But other than that, how have you been? You've been in Vegas. When did you get here?
I got here literally yesterday morning.
Yesterday morning.
Yeah,
Okay.
landed in Las Vegas. We went to a Lemon Haze event where I saw some of your team.
Shout out to Lemon Haze. Shout out to the Fohse
Lemon
team.
Haze.
Yep.
What? Yeah.
Who'd you see there from the Fohse team? Let's give them a shout
I
out.
saw Kyle and I saw Brett
Kyle. Yeah.
and Tim.
Yep. Tim. Yep.
Tim. Hi,
Yep.
Tim.
Yep.
Glad
Actually,
to see you
Tom.
again. Tom, just kidding. Tim, forget about him.
Tom is actually here from Minnesota with us. Brett, who is actually our CEO and founder, Brett Stevens, and then Kyle, his brother. They were on site at the Lemon Haze event. Fohse sponsors the event.
Yeah.
So it was great to have our staff there and to have you there with us, and also to have you here with us today. So thank you.
Yeah, it was pretty beautiful. A good day of golf.
Right.
You know, I'm an avid golfer,
Right.
so I'm a natural
Are you really?
fit.
Are you joking?
I'm not the most sporty person. I'm more of a yoga gal.
Yeah,
I like to hike.
Okay.
Yeah, like I got moves. I'm like athletic, but uncoordinated.
Uncoordinated. So golfing and things that require coordination,
Hand-eye.
same time.
I'm bored.
Got it. Okay. Okay, for sure. So what did you actually do? What was your role there? I mean, I know you're an influencer. Let's give them a little insight on.
Oh,
what you do
let's
there.
give them some insight. Yeah, so if you don't know about Lemon Haze, it's a cannabis executive golf event, and it's an invitational. So
Invitation only. So if you do not get an invitation, do not expect to show up.
then you stink. Just kidding. You probably smell fine. But
Maybe.
It's a day of golf with, C-suite folks from a given area. So Lemon Haze travels around to different states, different cities. We've had some in California, and we've been in Florida, Ohio, and this week we were in Nevada, and a bunch of different cannabis brands from around the city will come together to network and hopefully leverage some kind of opportunities. And I was capturing it all. So I was with my camera crew, and we make the video recaps. So yeah, follow Lemon Haze on Instagram, and that's how you can see our incredible artistry.
Nice. That's good. Well, I mean, most people, if you're asking why golfing, if you don't know, most of the biggest deals are made on the green. So when you hear that phrase, that just means that, most of the millionaires and billionaires, they're not at the club making deals. They're not at home talking.
It's too loud.
Yeah, it's too loud. They're in a space where they can talk quietly, focus on something where they all can be great at and discuss those big dollars. So all big deals are made on the green.
Do you golf?
I don't. My father does. He's actually really, really good. He loved Tiger Woods for forever, but I did not take on that trade. It's slightly boring for me. It's slightly my mind goes like this when it's too quiet outside. Like I'm starting looking like, oh, bird. Okay, there it goes. So I don't really get into it too often.
I think it's like a beautiful experience to be out in nature, but I just want to pause on what you said, that so many deals are made on the green. What is fascinating to me, how many women golf?
Right.
It is a predominantly male sport.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I'm glad you just
made that a good point, because I totally overlooked that. So
but
thank you.
I mean, but you're not wrong.
No.
Because that
totally
is like
wrong.
a huge networking, whether Lemon Haze or just dudes getting together to get to know each other over the span of a day and try to make something happen in the business realm.
For sure.
That is and also Lemon Haze is working to create more events that will be recognizing that maybe there is inclusivity that can be expanded upon, which I think is really exciting.
It's a good thing to recognize, and to make a topic, because I completely overlooked it. And most people don't even say, hey, there weren't any women there, other than like media or, in whatever capacity you guys do serve when you go. But it's you're right. You never really hear of females saying, oh, I made this deal on the court. Now, of course, probably in cannabis, or if you're invited.
Yeah, and there are some, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. We don't want to say none at all. Right. We don't want to say that. However, making it normal, in a sense of normalcy, for women to have the same access and the same position on the court, and not just position in stance, but position in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what matters, is position in the conversation.
And I remember years ago in the cannabis space, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, there were so many headlines. We were so excited that there are more female cannabis executives than any other industry. And it's growing, baby. And since then, every year after, it's just kind of goes back to like, no, it's just rich white old dudes.
And you can't really help it, because you think about, what's required of it too.
That's industry, that's capital, man.
Yeah, it's capital. And then too, I'm not going to say a lot of women can't dedicate themselves to it in a negative way, but women are nurturers. And this business requires a lot, and it's really, really rough. And for some, if that's not something that you can kind of sink your teeth in and deal with it while having a sense of normalcy and being a nurturer, the mother and all that, I think it's okay for that not to be a ground that you feel most productive in. There are other spaces,
Right, there's other spaces, but I would say whether cannabis or anything, industry, our capitalistic society is in many ways built against women, and makes it a very difficult decision for women to choose a career or children. And, I hope that the future will look towards integrating those things to support women, so that we can continue to grow in all avenues of business, as many other countries do. But that's a political conversation. No,
it's
a
real
day.
Not at all. It's a real conversation, because the one thing that I wanted to focus on here on the podcast, obviously, I think in episode 4 we had Eden Water Technologies, and we had a young lady who was their chief of marketing, Rochelle Linford. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. It was a pleasure having you guys, by the way. She was one of our first females that made an appearance with Eden. So to have you, that's one of our biggest priorities, is really making sure that the integration is seen, because Fohse may get the label a lot of being a bro culture or being a bro company. And obviously any woman that comes here, they feel safe, they feel the love, and they definitely know it's not that. Yeah.
You guys are all kind of ooey gooey sweeties.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like it's too fake, but that's really the culture that we've created. And it's really a great group of guys and a great company. So we really, really look forward to integrating more females and keeping that conversation going.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Sure. And cannabis is she's a female plant.
Yeah. Shout out to Mr. Rick Campanella, because he spoke about that as well in episode number 2, if I'm not mistaken, where we did Growing with Mr. Soul, and he talked about breeding feminized seeds only, and that's what his focus is moving forward in this next chapter of his career. So, and he means it. All female seeds, all feminized seeds, no male seeds at all. That's really what he's been focusing on.
Well, yeah, you won't get the flower that you want if you have a male plant. Sorry, but you guys don't have the fruit.
Yep.
All right? We got the fruit.
If you guys don't get a chance, if you guys don't get a chance to listen to what she's saying, to piggyback on that, go listen to episode number 2, Growing with Mr. So. He really, really walks us through the feminized seeds and why he started breeding those seeds, and the benefit of getting the feminized seeds, because you're able to manipulate a little more.
Yeah, and also you don't have to worry about I've grown cannabis before.
Come!
I know.
Wait, we got an OG at the table. We have a reporter on one side. We have a reporter on one side. Then we have a red carpet event correspondent, and then we have an OG grower and a smoker.
That's right.
What else do I need to learn right now?
I'm a cultivator.
Okay.
Thank you.
A home cultivator usually.
Yeah,
okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to get you a hop light then. For the home growers.
Yes, I can't wait to talk about that. I want to hear all about it.
Yes,
yes,
it's coming.
Mommy.
It's coming.
I've never grown indoors.
Really?
So I would be really excited about having that experience.
Nice.
Because I actually, growing in my current home, the last grow season, I had 9 plants in my backyard, which was... We were at capacity. we had too many plants.
No more plants, please. We're full.
But just given where I live, it's somewhat of I live in mid-city in Los Angeles. It's very much in the middle of the city. So we had a lot of different bacterias and complications from the environment around us that made our yield, it contaminated our yield essentially, all 9 plants. Yeah, we did not.
So you wasted them all, essentially, all 9.
Yeah, because it just would have been unhealthy to, we had something called, it was like white powdery mildew on our plants.
Nice.
And if you smoke that,
you're out of here.
It's probably not too good for you.
Not the way that you want to go.
Don't smoke the fungus. You put the fungus in the chocolate and then you eat it.
Really?
Like mushroom chocolates, you know?
Yeah, nope, not my thing. Nope, not my thing. Mushroom chocolates, no. Well, listen, as we move forward in this, what have you been noticing in cannabis and media? I mean, I know it's a perfect marriage, especially now with entertainment, music, the legalized places in the United States where performers can go and smoke on stage legally, venues, restaurants, public places. You know, what are your thoughts on that as the world is continuing to progressively make changes for that?
Well, obviously, any kind of media around cannabis, positive media, is positive for the movement.
Right, for sure.
Sometimes I feel like what content is available out there, people from like outside spaces, like there was that Netflix show with Kathy Bates that was all about like, ooh, working in a dispensary. And so much of what we see just continues to cookie cut the stereotypical archetypes of the stoner. Like you have your guy with dreadlocks and you've got like the stoner who's eating munchies with the flat brim hat. And it's just like, it's not really reflective of the population.
The guy that just woke up that just needs to,
it's still these characters.
Yeah, exactly.
We're creating over dramatized characters of people who use cannabis. Like this is the sole meaning of their existence. And that's not the case. The breadth and variety and spectrum of people that consume cannabis is the same as alcohol.
For sure.
Everyone, I mean, not everyone, but most people on planet Earth consume alcohol, and whether that's regularly or once in a while on special occasions, whether it's your mom at a wedding or it's the girl at the club, like everyone drinks booze and every type of person consumes cannabis. And so I'm really excited about a future in media where characters, it no longer is like a character trait. It's integrated into who a character is. Like even the Seth Rogans of the world, I so appreciate him creating comedic movies that really like bring a spirited effervescence to who the stoner is, but he's still playing like the guy on the couch who's smoking weed instead of it's just a character who every once in a while might be seen smoking pot, might be seen like it's just in a scene. It's not like it's scene.
Integrated into the integrated into the narrative of the story. And
so I think like when it comes to the entertainment aspect of cannabis, that is somewhat of what we're lacking. And I would also say that a lot of the content that I see produced from cannabis brands and businesses is not up to par with what is available in the mainstream. That's why I love what you guys at Fohse are doing. You really are setting the bar high. And I think that the content is like really beautifully curated and professionally done. And we need that desperately in this space to legitimize. Like we can't just create like shitty YouTube videos and slap them up. And
legitimization is key when it comes time to trying to take over a market or trying to take over any specific space when you're trying to occupy its entirety. If it's not quality, if it doesn't sound good, look good, feel good, taste good, what restaurant would you go to if the food was just thrown on the plate, no matter how good it tasted? You wouldn't go. And then some of the stuff we know here in Vegas, obviously I'm not a big foodie, but some of the shit here is trash, but it looks amazing on the plate. So you end up eating, you end up at the restaurant and it's like, okay, how can we mix presentation with quality for consumption? Especially with, like you say, I love when you mentioned the Rogan piece, to go back on that, because it also humanizes the stoner. Because a lot of times, like, the Sha'Carri Richardson, the track star, they made it seem like pop was an enhancer, and it actually, if you want to be honest, it could potentially slow you down, if anything. So like humanizing.
And they wanted to make that who she was.
And
like,
again,
she's
it doesn't.
An athlete. She's an Olympian.
That enjoys cannabis, and for whatever reason, she had her mother's death, all the personal reasons for whatever. No one else has to make those excuses, right?
She should not have had to explain herself.
You shouldn't have to, but it goes back to what you say with humanizing and normalizing users. Because if you go to Congress in DC, they're all in the bar till 9, 10 o'clock, shit-faced wasted, and no one's worrying about, are they going to make sound decisions for our government tomorrow after being shit-faced for 4 hours?
Exactly.
But you look at, and thank God Nevada's also getting, Vegas is getting better with drug testing at jobs for cannabis and all that, because I think it does add to the narrative of it being bad. And for some, I'm sure they do have problems with it, with everything, discipline what's the word I'm looking for? Discipline and restraint is key, in all things. So you can't go hard in everything, but I think changing that narrative is important.
And drug testing for what? For the few people that take it too far and aren't able to perform their job?
And compared to what drug that
exactly
didn't. Okay, if you do coke for 2 days.
It could be, someone could be taking pills. Someone could be drinking. Like, we don't test for these things when someone shows up to work. So, yes, there's always going to be the bad apples or the people that do things wrong. But it's not, like, limited to this substance.
But it's also because the people that do wrong, they aren't defined by that because they've been humanized. So it's easy for you to separate. The smokers get a smoke break. So I mean, everyone else has to sit at their desk. It's just those small things, just those small things that humanize you as a human. That you may not be afforded those luxuries because of the differences. And I agree with you. I do believe that the more coverage is the better. This is a case where cannabis has already had a lack of coverage, and when it did, it was either negative or it was in pop culture where the celebrities could do it, but the people in the shows couldn't. And they're like, how can I? He's smoking on stage, but I can't. So I think, again, it normalizes the conversation, it humanizes the users, and it also makes everyone feel as if we're still a part of society. You may smell us, but we still want to come and hang and still dress good. We may step out in the back, but it still humanizes us as users, or just everyone in general. Because like you say, everyone has their thing that they consume, whatever it may be. It may be the gym for some, but for us it's cannabis, and we're okay with
cannabis.
that. Yeah,
and I would also say, like, look at me. I look like a small 16-year-old cherub.
Yeah. Which is what I didn't think. I thought she was at least like 19, 20 when we first got on. I thought
that's right. I'm
younger
31.
Okay,
I'm on level 31. I'm
that.
just going to shout it, scream it from the mountaintops, baby.
31. We'll take it.
But I'm a huge stoner.
Yeah, for sure.
And I still get shit done. Yeah. And I want people to be, I want to see more people in the public eye who are reflective of just like the possibility of consumer.
But the one thing, and I'll shout out this at Fohse, I won't go into detail because I love this company and I love what they represent here, but they let people be, if you get what I mean. I've been here 4 months almost. I haven't seen one person stressed. And if they have been, it wasn't visibly, because the sense of camaraderie, being able to go outside, hey, I gotta go take a quick smoke break. I'll be right back. You come back in, lift it. The rest of the day is good. Your content is smacking, it's killing. It's great. You're super smart. You're sharp. But like you say, it normalizes, because again, I don't smoke cigarettes, but if I want to go out and just take a quick little, let me get my vibe right to come back and finish the rest of the day, I should have that priority, or I should have that option, not be penalized for it or judged internally amongst people, because it may not be a public thing, but it can be a private perception amongst my peers. And a lot of people, that's what they struggle with.
I think that what you're speaking to is quite obviously that people hear, or when you go take your smoke break, it sounds like this is your medicine. This is what, we live in a capitalistic society that wants us to be productive so many hours of the day. And on Instagram right now, man, I don't know what I'm talking about or looking up, but I am getting ads constantly for ADHD medication.
Really?
It must be like how I use Instagram. They're like, this girl has an issue. She cannot stay focused.
Right, could be, yeah.
But I straight
well, of course
up,
not. I'm not saying could be for sure, but yeah, I get what you mean.
No, but I'm getting all of these ads that are talking about, like, watching videos of influencer types that are like, you need to get your mental health right. Like, you don't need a doctor, you don't need a prescription. Just go on this website, take a quiz, and we'll make it easy and get ADHD medicine to your door so that you can go back to normal. But that's okay.
Right.
But taking a smoke break, a cannabis break is somehow demonized. And I appreciate your job culture that it's not like that.
And it also allows everybody to be at their best, because there's no stress.
Yeah.
No one walks in with a chip on their shoulder or ego. We're all here to just kill our shit and go home. That's why the content looks the way that it does, because everyone's passionate, but everyone's at ease when they do their work here. There's no stress. So as we kind of think about no stress, as we move on to the last thing that I wanted to talk about here was the legalization in the East Coast. What are your thoughts? So we've talked about, man, where do we start? We talked about cannabis in media. We talked about cannabis entertainment with celebrities and coverage. And now we're talking about cannabis and the legalization on the East Coast and that huge booming market. What are you thinking? You ready to go to New York?
I know.
Okay, let's go tomorrow.
No, I think that West Coast weed is always going to be a superior product. Sorry about that.
Shout out to Ben.
We just got the OGs out here.
Yeah.
I know New York just celebrated their first 420 and it was such a splash. I had tons of people that I knew going out to celebrate in all of the ways. And I feel like it's like gay pride. Like people were just so excited. Like, oh my God, it's happening.
It was one guy that I looked up on. Let me see where I found this article at. I think it was ABC News. Yeah, this guy here says, hold on, what did he say? He said he described it as Christmas morning. I didn't even sleep tonight. I was in line before 6 a.m. I just knew I had to be there. I wanted to be a part of today. Today is the day that we're just free to do it without any consequences.
Wow.
And it's something so small, but you hear like the excitement of that. Like that's like an iPhone standing in line. That's like, it's people are getting what's rightfully theirs over time. You know, everyone's getting their, I'm not going to say everyone. That's another day for another conversation. But the people that have been marginalized, I think, again, the conversation with cannabis, with all of these areas being legalized, is going to force the conversation for those that are in prison in those same areas.
Thank you.
So I'm happy that it's happening, and I'm happy that people are able to speak about it like that and not have to worry about drug testing on 421. And even if they do, that's another conversation. But, you know, it's still just kind of rounds out the narrative that it's happening. The takeover is happening, the conversation is happening, and you have to get in on it at some point.
Yes,
you know?
And the more states that legalize, to your point, the more people who are serving time in those state prisons will have every availability. Obviously, it's a difficult process to find your way out of the prison system.
Or maybe it shouldn't be, but maybe this is a part of.
Shouldn't be,
but maybe this is a part of that narrative change. Is maybe there are people on the front lines that we don't know about. If you're watching this or if you're listening, I would love to talk to you. I would love to get in contact with you to learn more about what you're doing, to highlight the work that you're doing. If giving you a platform to share more about your mission is what your goal is, I would love to chat with you, because I think the more people that learn and educate themselves on it will be the more people that stand behind those that still don't have the equal access to life right now. You know?
Absolutely. And, you know, being at this Lemon Haze event this weekend, how beautiful, how incredible, the freedom and the liberation that all these attendees have to talk freely about their industry, to consume all of these things.
On a golf course where you normally would be kicked out and banned of that from that entire area.
And
you know?
It's like, so it's bougie, right? Like it's privilege. And to return always to the reality that 40,000 people are serving sentences for cannabis crimes across America right now, while deals are being made on the green.
Yeah.
It like
about green, you get the
oh, there you go.
The green,
yeah, but there's like an alarming disconnect there, and so I really appreciate whenever people can just take a moment to pause and acknowledge that the work that still has to be done. And as we were talking about earlier, brands who will touch on the fact that they're involved in social equity programs or they stand for social justice. But like how and why.
Yeah. Well, what are you saying? Because that specific stance, you can't just support. You have to say something, because that's something that will only change by vocalizing and verbalizing what change you want to see. You can't silently support, especially in this instance. Silence is complacency for this, because if you're silent, you're allowing it to continue to happen.
Yeah.
You know,
and I get it. It's a buzzkill. You don't want to talk about it.
No,
like I made
but
a
it doesn't have to be a buzzkill though. Like that's what we go back to when we said change of the narrative. It doesn't have to be a buzzkill. It doesn't have to be the honky downer. Man, we got to talk about. It could be, man, what are we doing to get them people out of prison? I'm enjoying a blunt. They're in jail enjoying this little skinny one. They should enjoy a fat one. Their life is good. What can we do to change it? That doesn't have to be the, well, what do we got to do to get them people out of jail?
What if every cannabis brand was required to sponsor someone who is in jail, pay for their legal fees, give them money for their, the commissary?
For the commissary. For the commissary for the
give
food
funds,
and what they can
because I learned that being in prison is so expensive. It's really expensive.
I just, on the news the other day, I read an article where they were talking about the prison system, and it was over, and don't quote me guys, but it was about $2 to $3 billion made from calls in the United States from prison.
Oh my God, that's not what I thought you meant. Oh, like just people calling home to their family?
Calling home to their family. $1 billion empire from calling.
I thought you were going to say that like what's very common in prisons is that people will be employed to be telemarketers for businesses.
Nope. No, I didn't know that. Tell me more. What?
I mean, that's the long and short of it, but there's a lot of different brands and businesses. Okay, I'm not going to say any brands because I don't want to get it wrong, but a lot of big corporations employ prisoners for pennies on the dollar
for
to
their
build
good and their
things,
textile.
for
You're right.
tech,
You're right.
for telemarketing.
Which, if we want to be honest, I'm just going to stop right here. In the Constitution, that still allows slavery, though. You know that, right? In the Constitution, it says
what
slavery.
prison is.
It
It's a
says
modern-day
slavery
slave
is
system.
illegal unless you are in prison, essentially working for essentially doing trade skills. So that's why they manufacture hand sanitizers during the pandemic. They were all making hand sanitizers in prison. A lot of them. It's insane. So it does still allow slavery under that exact rule there.
They're
so it
making
goes
hand
back.
sanitizer. Meanwhile, like their health care in prison is just like absolutely non-existent. So it's like, don't get COVID. We gave you hand sanitizer.
You're making it. You know, so
That
I mean,
is
all in
nutty.
all, I mean, I think we're making great leadway. We're making great strides in furthering cannabis in the narrative, but I would love to see those at top. You know, this is a challenge for companies and organizations, CEO and executives, to really have the conversation about how you can penetrate the market for those who don't have access to it.
Thank you.
I once thought about, before we get out of here, I thought about opening a dispensary at one point in time in my career later down the line, where we hire children of felons, where you give back to the community by hiring the children that were impacted by their fathers and their parents not being in the house.
Don't make me cry.
I know, right? It's crazy. Well, and I witnessed that. I witnessed that with a lot of my friends too. So I think being able to afford education and employment gives resources. That goes back to the community. That goes back to safety in the community. It also decriminalizes marijuana, so the young kids don't have to feel as if they're doing some secret trade when they can really be out here being businessmen. Because a lot of the guys in prison probably would be billionaires if they were at the top of these companies, because they were doing it before it became recreational.
That's right.
You know, so I feel like at some point, that's definitely what my mission is in this long term, is to make that a thing where every dispensary has a story.
I love that so much.
Yeah, 20 kids
And
are
you know
represented
what?
at each dispensary almost, essentially. 20 parents. Every kid has a story about their dad leaving the house at 5, or them losing their dad to drugs, them losing their dad to police stuff surrounding their drug stuff, or losing them in prison. It'll all be tied to that. But it's still, like we said, the larger picture is changing the narrative, humanizing people, and doing what's right.
Well, I hope that you can actually make that happen. That would be so fabulous.
I feel like I would. It's slowly taking its arms. I've spoken to a few of our extended ambassadors and a few people to pick their brain, and everyone has kind of liked the idea. And it's not a money scheme for me, but it's really about
No, but in some ways
access.
it's like homeboy bakeries. I mean, like different model or different like mission.
Absolutely.
But that's a tremendous
I would love to
successful
create it
business
where
that
it would
gives
be
back.
required for at least one dispensary in the state to hire all children of felons or ex-felons or ex-cons or anyone in law enforcement that has to do with cannabis reform, decriminalizing, all of that. I would love for them to be involved in the conversation.
And that's how you really start to peel back the layers of generational trauma that the war on drugs has really caused. I mean, it's had such a ripple effect. But on a positive note, I did read that in Las Vegas, you guys are soon going to have consumption lounges, and that 50% of the licenses have to go to people who have been previously convicted of cannabis crimes.
Exactly.
Now, that obviously gets like political and wonky because it's like, well, you can get the license, but do you have the money? No,
Right.
you need
No.
someone rich
Right,
to buy the
exactly.
license for you, and then you just become a silent partner.
Right.
But
it's still
hopefully
access.
there'll be some people that make their way through that to success.
We hope.
Yeah.
We hope. But I mean, I think that's a huge thing too, because it's like a bar. You don't allow people to get their liquor and leave. So what's the difference between, I mean, you get it at the corner store, get your beer, your wine coolers, whatever, and leave. But I mean, everyone wants to sit and smoke, listen to music, have a lounge, and then drive. I mean,
Hours later.
hours later, take something to take it out, whatever. But, you know, I think, again, that normalizes it, giving normalcy. You should be able to go smoke, sit down, chill, watch the game, go home, no consequences. So I definitely think it's huge for Nevada. I look forward to seeing it. I hope that, you know, I know Fohse will be involved in some capacity with being able to tour, stop by some. I know we will be. We're just that type of company. But hopefully you'll be back and do a tour of some with us. We can do a tour of one.
Absolutely.
Do like a smoke session at one of them, chill.
That's right, baby. I'm there.
Okay. Well, that's like a plan. Before we get out of here, Brooke, first, I just want to say thank you. We've talked a nice while. So by the time you guys see this, it will be a nice mixture of our conversation, because she is one of the very few sharp minds that I've seen, especially as it comes to cannabis and media and covering what we need to do. So it's been a pleasure having you with us, and I look forward to what this partnership will bring in the near future.
Yeehaw. Thanks, Leo.
For the people that want to follow you or learn more about your brand, where can they find you at?
find me on Instagram. That's the easiest way, at Brooke Stellar. And then you can also check out my podcast, the Budding Mind Podcast, on Spotify and iTunes.
We'll be making our way over there soon. We may be doing some partnerships where we may have a little dual on-site situation coming up. So ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you. We hope you've enjoyed it. More to come from Mrs. Brooke with Fohse. She will be around for a while with our brand. Some exciting things on the horizon. But stay tuned for next week, episode 7. Can't tell you what it is. It will be a surprise. But in the meantime, visit Fohse.com. That's FOHSE.com. Click the podcast button up top, media button up top, slide down the podcast, and we'll be right there. But in the meantime, between time, it has been love. I've had a pleasure talking to you, and we'll see you next week.
Likewise. Aloha. And I
Peace.
love you.